Thank you very much, everyone, for coming on this Thursday evening. My name is Marek, and I'll be kind of walking you through our today's meetup. Does everyone know where they landed? What sort of a kind of an event we are at? Yes, no. Oh, all right. Fair enough. I mean, in between the world where we currently live in, where every second sentence, mentions ChatGPT, and every third sentence is written by ChatGPT. That's basically where we'll try to navigate the discussion today. And today's meetup will be a relatively nice, from what I saw in the preparation discussion, in between three people, dare I say, experts in the area, at least locally, perhaps even semi-globally, if you want to call it that way. And so, in order to start it up, let's give them a round of applause, please. Very cool. We'll get to their introduction and all that, but before that, a bit of housekeeping. We'll be using this thing called Slido. We might have heard of. If you haven't, I understand. But try to see if you can get in. And throughout this sort of a thing, we'll try to make this sort of conversation not just sort of something that happens here on this imaginary stage, but a bit more a two-way street in which you can ask the questions, just as I am trying to come up with them on stage as well. So Matej, would you mind answering two very basic questions? Would you mind giving a very quick 30-second intro, and then what are you doing AI-wise? Let's call it that way.
Okay, so thank you for being here. First of all, I'm Backend /AI lead at Surglogs. Surglogs is a healthcare platform for compliance. So we basically help the clients at the US, like healthcare facilities, with their compliance alignment. And my point of view on AI, basically I'm responsible for prototyping and leading AI initiatives, especially in NLP in our platform.
Hello there, I'm Marek Šutta. I'm mathematician by background. I'm a co-founder at Cognexa. That's a company that we are basically soldiers that are building AI systems for the companies that want to have them, and helping the teams of engineers dive into AI. My role at the company is mostly the solution designer. So I'm not like a technology architect, but I give the projects that we are like to delivering some, as we in Slovak say, hlavu a petu, or as in English could be said like the general shape of the project, general high-level design. Thanks for coming.
Hello, Tomáš Halgaš, did maths and computer science with a focus on machine learning and compilers at Oxford. Then worked for Facebook. Then I thought I could do social media better. So I founded my own social media company, sold it to Twitter. And now we are known as Twitter Communities. And then spent a bit of time, not too much, at Twitter, because then Elon Musk happened and that was unbearable. And then I basically started a new company, and now what we're doing, we're building an entire full stack systems with AI.
Cool. Well, thank you for following the, not going that deep, because we'll touch upon it. We'll touch upon it in the follow-up questions. But I guess to give it a bit of a spin from the ground up. Can you tell us what was your very first experience with what we call AI today? And feel free to take any definition that you like. Tomáš, how about you start? For very first experience.
So my studies are focused on machine learning and a bunch of AI stuff, but I was exactly in that year at uni where we still learned the natural language processing in the classical way. So we would do actually like you're breaking down a sentence, find the adjective, find the noun, but it was like the breaking point. Like Oxford was one of the early kind of like spots where they started having like hiring DeepMind engineers and started having like really good deep learning. And so I was exactly at the time when...
What year was this? 2015?
That was 2015, yeah. Yeah, that was very interesting because you could see the old school AI researchers and then like the new school, like just throw everything into some deep learning algorithms and deeper nets and larger nets. And so that was like my very kind of like earliest dive into it, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you.
I closely feel with what Tomáš said because and I was at Maths University there in Bratislava. When I look at it now, I realize that there was quite a lot of AI that we learned and that we did. But at the time we didn't call it AI. We call it statistics, advanced statistics, econometrics, mathematical modeling, and all those words. And I was a kind of maths faculty student that was like, yeah, I like the concepts, I like being there, but I like many things. I'm like the business guy among the mathematicians and mathematician among the business people. But then, like in my 5th grade, I came across on the signal processing course. We had to do a project. I came across my future colleagues that were at the time in IBM Research Center in Prague, and with my later co-founder, we got in touch with them. They told us about what they are doing with convolutional neural networks and for video analysis of some biological use case. And this was a time that I never experienced it before on maths faculty, that for a week I wasn't doing anything else. I was just studying the use case and studying all the technologies there, etc. And I fell in love, and later Cognexa happened.
Cool, thank you. Matej?
Okay, so my very first study with AI was in 2014-15 when I started. I was working on a different startup in Martek, and we played around the recommendation systems. At the time, it was like a recommendation. It wasn't like real AI, but that was the beginning. And then at 2016, I started PhD, a different theme. It was the time series analysis and anomaly detection. So this was the very beginning from my side for AI. And that time it wasn't really like real AI, it was like big data analysis, and recommendation. But now we are talking about the AI or machine learning, but still it's the same, it's about data. And then basically I switched to a different era, and now I work more with NLP and time series still. So yeah, those two industries mostly.
Interesting. So it's very interesting to see that. I don't know, by some random coincidence, it seems that I would, if I had to, put my beginnings somewhere, it would also be thereabouts around 2015. That's why around that year. It seems that in some sense we were very lucky to, not being exposed to, the prior generations that much, and then the prior bias hasn't, hasn't held up. Go ahead.
But also we are very lucky to have seen what it was like before. Right? Like we are exactly from the generation that have seen like a little bit of before, and now we're ready for the new thing while having the pretty good, solid backgrounds.
Right. I guess it will be only more difficult going forward. But the other questions I was wondering if we could sort of address as well is basically all of you either build products that all of you build products that use some sort of AI, and like this is a technology meetup. So how about we go at least slightly into the technological part of it? Like, what do you use it for? What's the added value for the user? And perhaps very briefly as well, how does it work? If we can sum it up. Let's try Tomáš first.
So in short, what we do, we build like entire full stack systems with AI. So what you find very often with LLMs is that they can do like small bits and pieces and small chunks. But as soon as you try to scale that and make it do like bigger things, you start finding that it gets very confused very quickly. So what we've built is actually, I would call like a high-level programming language and a very powerful compiler. And it's a high-level language where the AI is finding it much, much easier to define and specify entire products. And then with the help of the compiler, we basically like achieve that the much bigger stuff happens at the other side of the story. And then we would get the AI then to like finish off small bits and pieces to really like help you get to like 100% dream state. And so it's an interesting combination of like basically using the right tool for the right job. Like LLMs are good for some creative but maybe not very precise kind of things. And so we achieve the precision by doing this framework or this powerful high-level programming language.
I see. I'm sorry, I have to follow up. So walk me through how this would work, how I would use it. Like, is it that I want to have an app that reminds my wife to cook dinner or something like that? Like, is that some sort of a, like, would that be the standard use case?
Yeah, you can totally do something like that. I mean, it might be a bit expensive for a use case like that. But in general, yes, like you could be like, I don't know, there was a VC who wanted a better dashboard for their limited partners. Okay. And the entire process took like, for the first version, like several minutes. They were literally like, just write into a prompt. I want a dashboard for my LPs, and they would adjust in our like environment and like what it looks like, what it feels like. You can also directly edit the language, and then we have very powerful integrations where they were able to plug it into their entire system, and the whole process took like whatever 2-3 days. Or we would get some medtech startups and a bunch of other startups, basically creating their entire like apps, basically an iOS, Android web, fully hosted backend, including databases. Yeah.
I see. And like so like does that mean that I would need to learn a sort of domain-specific language that you are doing this compiler thing in, or
Right. So technically, the way it works is that the source of truth for your entire system is the Sutro language definition. Together with whatever lower level language integrations which you might have. But there are two ways to interact with this high level language. You can either edit it directly, like learn bits and pieces of this DSL. Okay. It's quite easy, it's very, very easy. If I show you an example, you'll find it very, very easy. And then, or as a non-technical person, we build this entire thing which we call a Sutro Studio, which is like a visual environment where everything you do there actually manipulates the underlying language. Which means that it's really powerful because you can get the non-technical and technical people working on the same underlying artifacts really, really nicely.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, thank you very much. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it sounds very interesting. And if I was in the audience, I'd probably send some questions. I even saw someone typing in. But so don't hesitate. We'll happily take it further. Marek, you probably built or like are building or had built in the past multiple AI solutions. So how do you pick some that would be like quintessential, like the ones that you normally show off?
Yeah. So yeah, we are to start with. We call ourselves an AI software house. So basically, like there are two parts of the notion. One of them is that we do algorithmic parts of these solutions. So we put together the logic with the machine learning and non-machine learning algorithms, etc. But we also have the capability to like build a simple full stack solution, and we usually don't deliver what sometimes researchers deliver, like some pieces of code, and let the engineers implement it. But we usually deliver something like a Docker image or an end-to-end solution with its own graphical user interface. or an API basically that can be called and that's documented, etc. So that's like what it basically is, what kind of animal it is. To pick some projects, I recently got an approval that I can talk about it publicly. There is a wonderful company called Innovatrix in Slovakia. They are a really success story, and now they have a product that's called Digital Onboarding Toolkit. That's basically the thing that enables you to open a bank account from the safety of your home, because you use their facial recognition algorithm and liveness check algorithm to prove that you are the real person that's in the photograph. And then there is the optical character recognition part that you pose with your ID card, and it reads, basically it captures it and it reads the letters there. So now it's completely migrated to their tech stack and to their platform, but for something like 3 years, the minimum viable product was built by Cognexa, and this part that reads your ID card from a picture that the user uploads there, and reads all the wonderful MacChain diacritics that are there, or some crazy signs from Azbuka and Cyrillic. That's one of the things. The second thing, there's another company called Runology. I encourage you to download their app if you are a runner or if you want to start running. They are basically your companion for running. So it's a knowledge base, and it also can analyze your run. So somebody records you, and the AI that is there captures your motions and evaluates it against some methodology that was developed by physio experts there. I even see some other people participated in development in this room. So this is another example. These two are examples of computer vision. So in the first type there is an image of an ID. In the second part there is a video. But apart from that, we do a lot of, for example, time series prediction and optimization. So for example, we are building some systems that are enabling the operators of some energy facilities. So for example, there's a battery, there are other devices that have to be somehow managed. And we build systems that say you should charge at these times and you should discharge at these times, etc., etc. So these kinds of things that work with time series, and then on top of that they somehow optimize everything and show the human some recommendation of what they should do as the time comes.
Interesting. I guess with an AI software house, if you want to call it that, I have to ask, like, what's on the input there? Like, is it that a company somewhere basically doesn't have the knowledge to do something like this, and it's easier, cheaper, more effective for them to partner with you?
Yeah, that I would say there are basically two types. So maybe I would divide it into three. How we call it is that we sometimes deliver a business solution. That is basically usually something with its own front end or something that's like unpack it, integrate it like this, and you have it up and running. In this type of customers, it's very essential to actually like create a use case for them, to define it, etc., etc. And the second part is like product or feature development. At that time, it's like usually more technical customer that, for example, can have an own SaaS product or something like that, and they want some AI feature there, and they have some idea of what component it should be and how it should be integrated, etc. And the third part, it's team augmentation. So basically, we plug in our expert into an existing software team, and they somehow divide the work, and that way they can be capable of developing some complex system together. So basically, sometimes on one end, it's the starting input is no idea, or very vague idea. There could be something in an eye about our business. And then the other extreme is that give me some hands and brains, but somebody who knows what they are doing.
I'd like to just,
Go ahead, please.
if I may ask, I'd like to understand like how, like what level of the AI stack do you tend to work on? Like it's very different to be like applying AI or like being able to also do like a bunch of fine tuning and stuff like that, or even like build language models from scratch. Like where are you in terms of what you tend to work on?
Yeah, we start even lower below. We sometimes build AI platforms or something that will be used by in-house data scientists, and somehow create some structure and good practices on the way. Like for own models development, we don't develop our own large language models. We leave that to others. There is a wonderful initiative, for example, at Kinit, we're doing something in Slovak. So these we use, but the other models we develop them. But then there is another layer. Of course, there are many wonderful pre-made open source or cloud components, and we are like as the time comes, we are more and more of an integrator sometimes of the different components that live out there and have to be connected.
Awesome, thank you, Matej. Please, same spiel. Can you give us a brief introduction to what you do AI-wise?
Yeah, sure. So at Surglogs, we basically build up the compliance platform. What does it mean is that any healthcare facility in the US needs to align with the kind of restrictions or rules, legal documents from the federal or state perspective. And basically they are given like 300 pages document with the rules, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And every facility, they need to somehow correct the document, build up the internal rules or policies for those documents, and then act according to those rules and policies. And here is the Surglogs to help them, like to build from the whole long document the policies, and then try to make like actionable items like tracking folders, log tables, and so on. What's needed to track down that you are aligned with those rules. So, for example, you need to track that anytime you came to operating room, you wash your hands, right? So here we basically build up the NLP models to understand the document, read it somehow, build the actionable part like policies, and then the artifacts from our platform. Yeah, and regarding to the AI stack, basically we are trying to use existing models, but for healthcare it's pretty hard. So we are trying to fine-tune the models, like for our cases. So we understand the legal documents and healthcare language itself, because it's not so easy. Yeah. And then basically we build up like a reporting on top of those artifacts, like logging tables and tracking tables, so we know what's going on within those facilities. And if you have like a network of organizations or have facilities across the country, you see what's going on at the top level.
Mm-hmm. I guess let's just follow up on this in the following sense. It's perhaps not. It's very difficult to kind of hide the fact that we are very much on the top of the hype cycle to some extent. And so I was wondering if within this framework of what you're working on, we could discuss a bit how did the fact that large language models are basically a perhaps most used word of the past year or something. How did that change the things you work on, how you work on them, and basically the products that you build. Matej, can you start?
Sure. From my perspective, it's about the fine-tuning and transferability. So we can learn from the others and we can share the basic knowledge, like foundation.
So let me restate the question. Did you use something like a language model to build those rules even previously, even prior to like November 2022?
No, it wasn't possible. Yeah, basically we started like a couple of months ago with building up those policies, because before it wasn't possible. Yeah, there were no options how to correct those documents. Yeah, like analysis of the sentences and so on, but still it's not like about actionable items we can learn from those documents. So before it wasn't possible.
I confirm that I brainstormed with them.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Large language models, they can be a foundation, as you said, and then there's like a very big number of especially NLP or growing also multimodal use cases where you can do the thing using some kind of retrieval augmented generation or something that takes the ready-made model and just like use it as it is and somehow plays with it either by using your own data or by other techniques that are there. I won't go into detail for now. But there is another implication that I see that for us is also a useful prototyping tool. That when a business person, the consultant is at the customer, there is some potential use case. I tell them, go ahead and try to put it into some conversational AI and get the result. And if you are able to do that, that means that you probably provided the satisfactory depth of inputs, and it's a good sign that it could be feasible. Yeah? So also for feasibility assessment of whether this could be in general solved by any AI.
If I may ask, have you ever used any other foundation model except for LLMs? Like, for example, for vision or something similar?
For vision, not really. Or like, there were some instances, but I don't think we never used it for anything that went to production or anything that delivered some business value. Because in vision you usually have to detect some kind of objects that defined, and it doesn't really help to detect 10,000 types of objects. Yeah, sorry. What was the other part of the question? This was it?
Yeah.
But these large language models are one type, but for example, if you are using you have a video data and you want to analyze it with NLP techniques, well, like you use some kind of audio transcription. I also would call it a foundation model. Translation between languages, also foundation. So there are this the transformation between the different modalities that I would definitely call foundation models as well.
In terms of how the era of LLMs and GPT changed what we're doing, actually, we were founded because we were seeing what OpenAI was doing.
Okay.
So it was back in the day of GPT-2, before it was cool. When we got to chat with Peter Wellender, he was the head of GPT at OpenAI, and he actually invested in us. He's one of our angel investors. And he was very quickly seeing that LLMs will need some sort of a scaffold or some more structured help. And we were then thinking about this whole this compiler approach with this high level language and so on. And he was saying that's exactly the kind of thing GPT will need to be able to effectively write software. And so I would say that our company was founded because we were seeing what was happening with GPTs. I mean, it still struck us so much harder, and we thought it was so much better, so much quicker than we predicted or expected. But still, it was we built the system with GPT in mind when we were building it from the start.
Mm-hmm. Cool. One of the things that popped up in the discussion is, in the questions we got was, and I'll go deeper on that. But as a team in and of itself, my sort of big question would be, to what extent do you see the current sort of setup in which we build these sort of products as
as something that's gonna stay for you know for at least a couple more years. The reason why I ask is that there is this feeling of, oh yes, it's sort of NVIDIA is grew 3,000% or whatever. But like, I mean, is it here to stay? That's what how I would frame the question here. Obviously, there are foundational models now that can do things we couldn't do really easily before. Do you think it's here to stay, or is it some sort of a bubble that will live through, just as the big data one perhaps?
I think there are two flavors of this question. It depends on the flavor. How I would answer. One part of like, are we in a bubble, is on the side of like is LLM, are LLMs and so on a bubble? But then the second question is like, is the current hyped up like AI investment environment a bubble? And for the second one, I would say that it is a little bit of a bubble on the financial side, in that most of these AI companies will die, right? Like most of them will be taken over by like more powerful LLMs and so on, which means that yes, it's a little bit like investing in the web in like 1992. like people would spray a lot of money and find that almost everything died, and it turns out to have been a really bad environment. But if you start investing after 93, you start realizing that if you just spray money, you're going to have a really good return on investments. Right. So what I would think is that we're now in like 1992 of AI investment world. So like we're in a space where if you just start making a lot of AI investments, you're likely, I think, to lose quite a bit of money, unless you hit one of the jackpot ones. But I think things will shake up quite a bit more maybe over the next year or two, and will be much clearer what are the kind of applications which are more fundable versus the kind of users of AI which are less fundable. Now, in terms of like the other flavor of the question, like, is AI a bubble? No, it's here to stay whether we like it or not, and we will need to adapt. Like things are not getting any less automated than they are now.
Yeah, just like to add to what Tomáš said, because I completely agree with what he said. On the things that are definitely not a bubble, is that there used to be always a list of use cases for AI that are real, and the companies are implementing them one by one, and they are quite proven. They are a way to go. For example, that's always like for the last 5 to 10 years, it used to be recommender systems. Like any good bigger website can have a feasible recommender system that adds some value. Now, what's added to the list by LLMs is, for example, the use case of customer support. That if the company wants to invest in tuning the system to some extent, like you don't have to be waiting in very long queues to get to some support operators, because like it will become ubiquitous, because it definitely works. It's not perfect, but it's good to that extent that it's worth it to have this option for the person. And this is a huge field, as recommender systems are a huge field, and like automating or assisting the customer support in itself is a sector of economy basically, and even now like the companies are implementing like many of those systems. So that's real. And but what will fade after some time, in my opinion, is of course like the investment. And then many companies that even we are talking with are excited that, yeah, now AI can do everything. Yeah, I tried this once, experimented with for an hour with ChatGPT, and it returned the result once. But they don't say it like that, but they say like, I prototyped it in ChatGPT and it works. Yeah, but actually sometimes it's something like that. And there's a big difference between having a 65% accurate solution built in this way and having something that's like production grade with many nines. So there are companies that hired some AI engineer are playing with it, and eventually now they are not asking for how accurate it will be or how reliable will our process be, because they understand that they have to do something about AI, but the managers will start to ask, and this is the dying out process in the commercial world, analogous to the one in startup world that I see.
Matej, same thing. Bubble, not bubble, here to stay, not here to stay.
Like 2 or 3 months ago, I had a discussion with my colleague about GPT, and he was telling me like, man, I will build up new startup in 7 days, now I have GPT, it'll be done. I said, okay, we will see. 3 months ago, then no startup there, okay? And the question is like maybe 15 years ago, we had like big data hype here, yeah? And now, basically, big data is not here. We live with data, we build up the data warehouses, pipelines, and we are fine with it. And that's the same with AI from my perspective. I think that we need to learn how to live and exploit the AI, because it will stay here for sure. But the question is how we will use it everyday life. Yeah, that's the question. It will be here. Yeah.
Tomáš?
I would maybe add like one more slightly philosophical point. Like when we look at how innovation happens, it happens in like waves and steps. So you would have some breakthrough. In this case, the current wave was launched by the invention of transformers, and it would launch a ginormous several years of new inventions and breakthroughs and so on. And then at some point we start kind of making the full use of that technology and waiting for the next big breakthrough. And when that starts happening, things start settling, things start stagnating, and we start thinking about the whole phase as like a little bit of a bubble. Then we're waiting for the next breakthrough, and then like jumps up. And now I've heard a lot of people say that this model will not kick in for quite a while, because there's such a massive growth of the amount of effort put into the underlying research that even these like amazing breakthroughs, they come so often that it doesn't even let this wave to zone off. And so that is like can we really sustain that forever, or do we get to AGI and then everything's I don't know. I don't know, but it's a very interesting philosophical one. Do we think like this thing will zone off slightly, or do we think that it will continue jumping in crazy steps consistently? And I don't have the answer.
Do the panelists have an idea, if not an answer?
Yeah, maybe the question is whether the AI is like a new revolution for us, like industry. Because someone is thinking that, okay, now we can automate everything, build up new prototypes in a couple of seconds, minutes, whether it's like a real evolution for us or not. Yeah. If it's a revolution, okay, then it'll be more powerful way how to achieve new goals, but the question is whether it is or not a revolution.
Yeah, I often got surprised in the last 1.5 years. For example, when Sora came out, as the video generation engine, like it was obvious that it will come, but that quality at that short time, good job, guys. So there's like this trend of making the generalist models in AI, and that's a wholly different approach than there used to be in the last 20 years, where it was about defeating benchmarks and specific tasks, and this is something that the bot is really smart now, and this is some whole other new animal that wasn't there even though like people were theoretically talking about general intelligence, but now it's like getting closer.
Right. Friends, we could talk about this for longer. I would very much love to, but we asked for questions, we got them. So let's go through them, at least through a couple. And this one it wasn't really about it much, but I liked it very much. So it seems that there is like a lot of investment into AI, it's obvious. it also seems that much of this investment basically doesn't find product market fit. So do you, as people who work with it daily, do you have some pointers as to how do you navigate these two? Like what's snake oil and what's actually real? What can be real? Tomáš, will you take a shot?
I think the one thing that is very interesting about what's happening right now is that we are getting better and better at automating all the routine stuff. And it's starting to really highlight that we are not very good at the actual innovative underlying stuff beyond AI. Right? So in an interesting way, like there was a period of time where just by executing really well on a lot of the routine stuff, you could actually create a fairly decent business. Right? But now we are getting into the stage where all the routine is done for you, and so you need to be like really a good business, you need to do really innovative, much deeper stuff, and you need to do it like really well. And that's by definition much harder. And so you see a lot of companies exactly like that kind of person, like I cannot do a startup because I have an AI designer, I have an AI product manager, I have an AI engineer. But at the end of the day, your startup still fails, right? So yes, it is much harder now because we are seeing much better past all these like routine and focus much more on like the absolute core, which is the hardest piece. And so like how to differentiate kind of like the losers before investing into them. That part of the question is like much harder because oftentimes like humans are famously not very good at prediction, right? And not very good at trying to imagine what the world will look like in a couple of years, depending on whatever circumstances. So like just looking at the best investors, we find that they invested into something that many other people didn't want to invest in. And that is still the case. Like it's still really hard to see through all the BS and to see like, okay, I think this will have value in the world of tomorrow. And that's just very hard. How to differentiate the losers? It's hard.
We'll take that for sure.
This is a very important question for our business. I would say that there is one good differentiator that works for us, that we are trying to I would twist it. We are trying to tell the people that are consulting with us in the initial stages before entering the cooperation, setting an expectation. Contrary to developing an app, you can deliver, you can get it done. Of course, you can tune the design, etc. But there is more clear point where it's these features are done, and let's move on to the others. And with AI, that there has to be a mindset in whoever is building that, the product owner, that we will build the first initial version of the product, and then we will gradually look how it evaluates on new data, and eliminate the corner cases that come by, and then gradually increase the I would say reliability of the AI, or even the reliability of the whole process. So there is a big fallacy that some founders are making, that I will develop the AI and then I will move to other things. No, you will fine-tune the AI and you will decide how much energy you want to put into that, because it doesn't have to be fine-tuned much, but some degree of maintenance have to be there. And the second thing is when some companies are rightly using AI in collaboration with human. Most of good uses of AI are basically collaboration, teamwork between a human and the AI. There's some kind of human in the loop. We call it that the AI assets some process that is there, that is already there. So there is a second differentiator. If the process is not there yet, if the startup founder or whoever didn't process it manually before, then he doesn't know usually what he's talking about. And there has to be similar kind of awareness that the reliability of the whole process has to be fine-tuned and has to be like, there can be solutions that are write a manual for the guy and there can be a solution that's like fine-tune this and that, and there can be solutions that tune the UX, but it's a continuous journey.
What about the medical field?
Yeah.
I would say that nowadays the question is whether you are building up the company or product because you want to use AI, or you want to build up the product and use AI as a tool within your product for features. Because if you are going the first way, like building the company because you want to use an AI, it's like a fail in future. But if you use AI like enhance your product, your vision, then it's a good way how to use the AI, and that's the point. And I like to connect it with the human in the loop, because this paradigm is great for AI and the products, because you interact with your product, with the expert on your side, and you help the expert with the AI, and that's the best way how to integrate the AI in your product. And for example, LLMs are now so great for this because they basically build up that interaction easily. So you as an expert in front of your product can interact with the product through LLMs. Yeah, that's the point. But for me, it's not only about the LLMs, but about the loop with the experts, right? Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Okay, let's do something else. Let's do a bit of, as we have quite a few questions, let's do sort of scatter fire approach. Short question, short answer, all right? So, Tomáš, let's do something like this. Is the model that you're using for perhaps the generating the fine-tuning, or like the smaller parts, as I understand it, is it static? Does it update in time? Can you give like a 3-sentence answer, something like that?
So the most difficult and important part of what we've built is actually the high-level language and compiler. And that is, you can think of it almost like very, very smart, but still like a classical compilation process. And at some point you start realizing that if you build out this really high-level language, the translation from AI to this from whatever natural language to this high-level language is actually quite easy. Like you can just throw like some of the off-the-shelf models at it, and it would do like quite a good job. And if you create this framework or high-level language, which basically guarantees that almost anything that you write in it, as long as you follow the grammar, will be a pretty valid full-stack system, you will get pretty good results. And if you give the customer the tooling to be able to adjust the system themselves, then you get just like a very powerful overall effect. So the AI part of the model is kind of easy, and we keep tinkering with it, we keep adjusting things and replacing with like newer and newer models. For some things we use more complex models, for some things less complex models, but most of it is just like, we can think of it as like off-the-shelf models, rarely further adjusted or even fine-tuned. Like sometimes yes, we do play with a lot of things, but the hardest thing by far is how do you create this high-level language and a really powerful compiler.
Awesome, thank you. I would have a follow-up question about how do you make it follow the grammar, but I'm sorry. Let's do something else quickly. There's a question about open source LLMs. Matej, would you have a have you tried any? How do they compare with what's there commercially?
Yeah, in our company we basically cannot use any public models like GPT or Vertex, because now there are no like real restrictions and guarantees for the security. So we are somehow forced to use open source models and host it on our servers and clouds. So basically we use models mostly like Llama, for example, and fine-tuning it for our cases. Because of the restrictions, we would like to use, for example, Vertex AI, but there are no guarantees for now for the security. and in healthcare there are strict regulations. So
Right.
that's the point why we need to use open source.
Understood. Thank you. Awesome. Friends, feel free to submit questions. As you can see, we are going through them. Marek, I have one for you in here. I took this one because it sort of asks about the impact of generative AI on your business and seeing how your business is basically. I don't want this to sound bad, like sort of consultancy. Do you feel like there will be impact there? As in, will you be able to stay competitive? Let's face it that way.
One trend that I'm personally very happy with but it's a question that many software builders and consultancies are standing against is that these large language models have a very understandable, very easy to use interface. So playing with them, putting them in your app, if you really want to do the thing that they were made for mostly, to generate some text and have a conversation, it's quite easy, and it's easy to start playing with them. And I think that in NLP it would become much more accessible for any developer that's out there to some extent. Like if you don't want to do something that's not really like a state of the art. There's the part of the industry that didn't really change is the part where you actually have to do some kind of mathematical modeling in the AI. So whenever you, for example, I mentioned this use case of running analysis, and this part. There was kind of foundation model that we used for tracking the different key points of the runner. And we used the Google model for that, and it worked quite well. We tested more of them, but we use this. This is the easy part, and the developer can do that. And then the tricky part comes when, how to evaluate whether the runner is running in a good way. No, it's not that you have millions of annotated videos where there is a video and there is a grading of the running technique. You basically have to understand the relationships between the numbers in the time series of, 27-dimensional vectors of coordinates, and how each point moves, and you have to do a very bit of math to do that. So it's not the barrier that's easily breakable. So in the domain of actually working with the numbers, with statistics, and somehow processing it, you need somebody who has a background in engineering and also mathematics for that.
I see. Awesome, thank you. Let's switch tracks a bit, slightly from the products that are being built to how they are being built. I mean, using language models in or like even AI models in general, whether they are being used as a foundational piece or fine-tuned or then deployed somehow, it brings its own challenges, obviously. So the first thing I would like to ask, there's quite a few sort of general programmers in the room, if you want to call it that way, and we mean it very well in that sense. It's not a derogatory term. My big question is, can you do things like this, where you have effectively a black box as part of your product? Can you do it agile style? As in, there is a sprint, and by the end of the sprint you deliver X because you promised at the beginning of the sprint that X is going to be deliverable. Or in other words, does this sort of inclusion of these models change the paradigm at all from, say, standard programming?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I might start this time. I will not talk specifically about the large language models, about working with them, because they are more of a component that you can get to some kind of performance very very fast, and then there's a plateau, of course. But generally, for AI, there are the different set of tough questions that you get from somebody who gives you budget, whether it's a client that's external or internal. And the one of them is how reliable will it be, and how reliable will the total process be. and then there's a big push to like evaluating the things pretty fast and having a very small phase that goes straight to the point of actually like having it evaluated in a whole process setting that will be there when it comes live. And this, in my experience, like we experimented with many like types of something on the axis between waterfall and agile, yeah? What we do is we do very disciplined, very short sprints that are very precisely defined, but then in between them we kind of reassess the strategy. So I think that yeah, agile has a place in AI development, but not in the first prototyping phase. But when we are tuning the model and when the developers have hands-on experience, then it could be quite useful when there is real customer data and anyone can spot something, then it also can be quite good. But in the prototyping, it's like a quite agile sequence of very waterfall, small sprints in my experience. So this is what worked for us.
Matej, Tomáš?
Yeah, okay. So, well, I agree, but from our perspective, we were working on few features from AI part, and the cycle, like development cycle, like feature defined and analysis, development, operations, deployment, when you're going in that cycle, that's great for agile. But now, when you think about the AI development, at the beginning you need to think about the feature and data. Yeah. So the cycle is way longer, and basically you need to start cooperating way more sooner with the product owners, the analysis about the data, right? And think about the quality of your data, because anytime you like to build any feature from AI's perspective, you need the data and the capabilities of the models, right? So the cycle is well longer, and there are more options to fail. So you need to make those micro cycles or waterfalls. But the key point is to start talking about the features way sooner, like with the product owners at the beginning. Whether it's even possible to start building that feature if we have enough data. Because if you don't have data, you need to think about how to collect, how to analyze the data, and it'll be then like feature delivery not in like a couple of sprints, like 3-4 sprints, but maybe like 3 months, because you need to collect the data at the beginning, right? So just think about the inputs for your features ahead of time, ahead of the development. And once you have enough data and you build up the model, okay, then there is the soft part. You like to integrate it into your product, but then basically we usually deploy the product itself, but with AI you need to think about the operations of the models. It's a bit different from the standard microservices or products. So even after you build up the feature, you need to think about the operations. It's a bit different from the software perspective, right?
I would just emphasize the part that you said about setting up the right acquisition of data very soon in the process. You need like some basic design for that, and because like I always get this dread when I come into discussion with some new tech lead or whoever from the customer side, and they tell me, yeah, we have the data, we've been gathering them for 2 years, and there's always like this moment of, okay, will it be usable, or will we say that they haven't been recording the usable annotations or usable data, and another 2 years will pass by before there's actually something we can do. So I cannot emphasize it anymore.
Yeah, so I find that like agile and waterfall are like two ends of a spectrum, and no one is really, I mean, no one should be fully agile or fully waterfall, right? If you're fully waterfall, then like years ahead you have exactly planned out what you're doing and there's no change of plan ever, right? So no space for unknowns or any changes or new learnings. Or then the other end of the spectrum, if you're fully agile, you don't really even have like a North Star. You're just like iterating on like a day-by-day basis. And every week you reinvent your goals and so on for your sprint without having something that you're working towards. So really there's like a nice space in between where you have certain plans ahead of you and you're breaking it down into these like smaller, more agile sprints, which will kind of create these smaller cycles where you're tackling certain unknowns and you make these learnings, you like go collect these learnings which help you adjust your future kind of like whether direction or learnings and so on. And so like what does the AI actually do here? And really it does kind of like maybe two interesting things. The first one is that on the one hand, many things which you would do with or for which you think you can use AI, you need to evaluate to what extent it can actually do it. Right? Like there's so many such a new space of unknown unknowns, which you just need to work with in this like prototypey fashion, like really like test it out if it can even work, test it out like how reliable it can be and so on. On the other hand, it allows you to automate so much routine stuff. So the standard software development process, especially when you're doing product development, where it's like, okay, let's start doing the software development because it will take several weeks or months, and then in the meantime we can continue gathering requirements. You very quickly find that no, the pressure is much higher to do a much more strict process at the very start to really figure out what it is that you want to achieve, because the process will just be so much quicker. And so shorter cycles, but much stricter on gathering the requirements and setting the goals.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I have like 2 or 3 last questions so that we wrap this thing up. We cannot really miss this. Do you guys use it in your own work? Not in the product, but in your own work. Are there things you were able to automate in the past, I don't know, year and a half that basically wasn't possible? Is it images? Is it writing extremely boring mails or something like that? Is there something you would highlight? Whoever wants to start, please go ahead.
Well, nowadays I way less use Stack Overflow and Ask GPT, but we cannot put there any code, like secret, anything from our code base cannot be put into ChatGPT. So just in general, like gathering the data and making kind of service, it's great for us. But to put there any data processing or code processing, it's forbidden for now. Yeah, because we need to wait how it will be in future with the restrictions.
I think Marek.
Yeah, like it will be the message that we won't eat our own medicine, but we don't have a single fully automated process with AI at Cognexa. At the company below some size, below a certain number of experts that are doing repeatable process, it's just not worth it. Yeah, you mentioned Copilot. That's a polarizing topic even in our team. There are some people who are like, no, not at all. And there is a guy that tells me that it boosts his productivity by 50%. Most of the other colleagues are somewhere on the spectrum. We make fun of him for that, but using it as for code generation or code assistance, that is one thing. And there is like the general Bing Chat or Gemini for research of whatever you need to research, and that Cognexa basically that's it. I'm not counting like the general productivity features.
Right.
I would say that we are quite on the upper side of the spectrum of being AI powered. So all of our engineers are heavy Copilot users. All of our engineers are heavy users of the ChatGPTs to do any research and so on. We all have like a ChatGPT and Cloud and Perplexity. Like we have all the subscriptions so that people can use whatever they like the most. And various people start finding that some things are good for some things are good for some other thing, and it just helps. I just like keep pushing people to like automate more and more of the daily routine stuff, and B, just working with these models on a day-to-day basis makes us much more attuned, like what is very easy to do, what is harder to do, what it usually gets right, what it usually gets wrong, so that when we actually use them as part of the product, they have everyone in the team has a much better kind of intuition for what it can do, what it can't do yet.
Cool. Alright, do you want to? Alright. Well, first to close this up, I guess we cannot completely, ignore the risks that are associated with things like these. Hallucinations have become a word. It used to be a concept. Now it's it became part of the vocabulary. So I wanted to quickly touch upon, I started with this sort of a question, which is currently most upvoted. Do you see, let's start a big risk, do you see effectively sort of even a generational risk, in the sense that there will be perhaps less IT work going on in the future?
I think it completely changes. It changes the kind of jobs which we're looking for, and it changes the kind of jobs which will be successful in the modern world. In other words, I'm finding that we need way fewer people doing the routine kind of junior developer work. Even junior developers are forced much quicker to start thinking about higher level concepts, about architecture, about system design and stuff like that, because for a lot of the routine you can get stuff automated. And I think that's a very, very good change, kind of pushing everyone up. On the other hand, if we're really successful at doing the kind of stuff that we're doing, for example, we're trying to make it so much easier to just use AI to build out most of your system, then really the question is will the enablement be so powerful that it creates so many more IT jobs? Or will the automation be much faster than the spread of possibilities for IT jobs, and therefore it will be much harder to find a job as an IT person? My intuition is slightly the latter. It will be the heyday of software developers is getting slowly more and more close. We will have a lot of very, very smart developers who will be extremely good at using AI and will be able to do the job of 5 developers each. But I think especially I don't want to say lower quality, but these outsourcing to some remote countries where it's known that maybe their quality of code is not that great. Mediocre, more junior engineers will find it really, really hard to find a job. That's my prediction.
Yeah, in some ways a continuation of the trend that, what did Stack Overflow do with the profession? You don't have to remember that many things, because you can Google some of them. This is much more powerful extension of this very trend. I can agree with Tomáš. I think that also the era of there's an IT department of people who don't wash their hair and are in the basement coding stuff, etc. This is long gone, but this is fast on the extinction. And it would be more important than ever to do good system design, the high level one. Understand requirements, being able to talk. Now it will be more important, more impact for anyone who will be in tech to be able to discuss things with customer, with colleague, etc., and to do the design. So I encourage you all to get a bit of architecture and then consulting in your tech lives. But for the other part, for the industry trend, yeah, there's a huge trend of any company in any sector becoming a tech company. So even like the industry is pushing us to basically working with more and more different companies, to mingle more with the domain experts, because there is no need for a whole basement of these type of older engineers.
Can you name one, like something that would be normally completely crazy in the past? Like company that is becoming more and more tech focused, but previously did something techy.
Yeah, but there is, for example, Walmart in the US that's transformed itself into e-commerce. They have wonderful e-commerce features at the moment. They are beating Amazon at their own game at the moment. Good example. So there will be smaller teams in it. There will be more space for highly productive tech people. There will be more opportunities out there because all the companies are becoming tech in some way.
Matej?
Okay, so as we mentioned in the beginning, AI will stay here, and we need to learn how to live with the AI. And to learn means also in IT. So we need to learn or adapt to new positions or our jobs, because low-level software developers won't be needed maybe anymore, couple of years, and we need to adapt. So it means like we need to adapt to design of architecture, solutions, and working more with data. That's the way how to stay in IT in the next couple of years, from my perspective.
Cool. Well, but what I'm gathering from the discussion, it feels like, you know, if I'm a poor software developer here today, you know, sitting in here, like, do I just walk out? You know, like, I mean, what do I do, you know, to stay relevant in you know, in any sense of the word? Would you have some recommendations?
Well, it won't change like in 2 years or 3 years, but you need to learn from now, because it'll change maybe in 5-10 years, not in 1 year. But think about it, learn about
learn what?
Learn about the data. I would start from the beginning, like how to work with data, how to analyze them, because it's like the cycle I mentioned before. Like you need to think about the data and then about the selection of the model, development, and deployment. So look at that cycle and learn about the data, how to analyze them, how to collect the data, how to maybe navigate through all those models, all those foundations, so you know what you should do when you want to process, for example, the document, when you want to process the video, yeah, and think about think about those models then. So you are on the good way to learn how to adopt in the couple of years.
Another random tip: try to think more steps ahead. And basically, it's about defining the task. It's like the very basic skill for a software developer. Whether you are defining a task for a colleague or for yourself, eventually more senior people can like look at what needs to be done and then define very clearly like what will be the components to break into and what will be the steps that I follow, etc. And now if you learn to really define, start with small tasks, go gradually to the bigger ones, like that's generally a way how to get senior in software development. But now it's also a way to have a good cooperation with your favorite chatbot or favorite type of copilot. That work like that. If you do a good specification for the robot, it delivers good results. If you do a poor job in there, then don't expect anything magical to happen. So try to think more steps ahead and work on your task definition and like system design or component design.
Two parts to it. The first part is obviously learn to live with AI and to use it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, if you're a developer in the audience and you like don't use like Copilot or like AI on a day-to-day level, can you please raise your hand? I really want to talk to you. No? Okay.
public shaming.
No, I'm genuinely really interested. I assume like people here are smart and everyone has like some good reason if they refuse to accept some of this tooling. So I'd love to just like understand. But like part one, like these tools are here to stay on top of them, stay informed, try whenever there's a new model, like keep reinventing yourself and accept that more and more of your job is getting automated. And then, okay, what to do about that? And I would say either go broad or go deep. So I think the easier way here is to go broad. In other words, if you're like on a product development team, it will become over time more and more easy for like parts of product, like parts of software engineering being automated, parts of designer work being automated, parts of product manager's job being automated. And it will start becoming much more important to be the person who can like do the requirements gathering, do like talking to all the other people, make sure we can define very well what it is that we're building. Basically become much more of like a little bit of a designer, a little bit of a product manager, a little bit of like everything around it, little bit of like a salesperson who can talk to a customer, like that way you can make sure that you can make most use of all of the tools around us and you will be more and more indispensable. The other approach to it, which I think is a little bit more risky, but it could be very interesting if you can pull it off, which is like go like really, really deep. Like if you are extremely good at whatever, understanding the entire whatever system stack all the way to the bits, right? And then there will always be, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, there's this idea of like law of leaky abstractions. Like whatever abstractions you code or invent, there will be edge cases where these abstractions leak. So there will be cases where this magical, beautiful system will start misbehaving. And it will require an extreme level of understanding with all these layers and layers of automation and magic to really know what's happening. And that will require some really deep expertise, and these people will also be invaluable. So either go really broad or go really deep.
This is saying that I like, that people tend to overestimate the impact of technologies in the short term and underestimate their impact in the long term. I would put emphasis on the first part, like not that much is going to change for a software developer in the next few years. Like, don't be paralyzed by that. And if you are somehow on the pulse of the times, like if you are, for example, you have played with Copilot, you are thinking about what the chatbot can help me solve, what the code generator can help me solve. If you are actively like having part of your RAM finding a solution for that in your basically day-to-day job, you'll be mostly fine, I think. It's not like die or not, yeah? Because not that much is going to change. There's also always going to be like custom code bases, and you have to somehow navigate it, etc., etc. So like, don't be paralyzed by that, because this is going to take a very long time.
Maybe just one more thing to add. Because I'm of the opinion that automation will be faster than the amount of demand for software engineers, it will mean, like if I'm right, it will mean that over time software engineer salaries will not increase when compared to inflation. So we'll keep feeling like we can get our promotions and our increases and so on, but over time we'll find it like harder and harder and harder compared to inflation. And so, in my opinion, our amazing lives as like these uniquely quite overpaid on average individuals, I think will be like harder and harder to maintain as an image of ourselves.
Cool. What a nice, thought to finish it. But anyhow, let's wrap it up. Anyhow, gentlemen, one last question for each one of you, and you, Tomáš, we might get two for just for the fun of it. But like, what's some sort of an AI thing you would like to try for yourself in the next couple of days, just to that you're excited about? Would you have something like that? Or am I asking completely crazy things?
Yeah, well, we're gonna do something with drones and with the new NVIDIA Jetson O-ring. So it's like a very small, very powerful microcomputer that enables many things in robotics and beyond. So that's something that I was saving the time of my team for quite a long time. And yeah, just a random one thing.
Cool. Thank you. Matej?
I'd like to build up an automation for my gardening through AI and learn about the weather more, so I can build, because I'm lazy and I like to automate as much as possible. So I like to build up the model, the model for gardening, for watering.
Understood. Tomáš?
I'm really excited for how AI with all the video generation and these kind of things will merge with AR and VR. I think it will be an absolutely exciting world in AR and VR, like in the next couple of months. Like with the explosion of like the Sora models and these kind of things. I think it will be, like imagine putting on these goggles and suddenly there's like another like virtual human which totally looks like a human, you know, and interacts like a human. You can talk with it and do all sorts of stuff. I think the extent to which it will be like absolutely like amazing will be like really high.
Awesome, thank you. Tomáš, this question was waiting for an answer for about an hour, so I'm very sorry, but we have to finish on a fun note. So, do you have any fun stories, you know, about Elon? We'll cut it out from the recording for sure. Don't worry.
I'm under NDAs here. No, okay. I'll make it a little bit less fun and a little bit more of like an overview on what's happening there, just to like bring it closer to people. Like, let's be honest, like Twitter was a bit of a, let's call it very diplomatically, laid-back culture back several years back. And really when Elon took over, his idea was to make, like really kickstart it and make it much more energetic. And he took the approach of like, how do you, like, you know, this concept like tipping the scale. So like go to the other extreme, right? And so all these things that you would read in the news, like he would message all the employees like, from now on, like if you want to be in, you will need to start being super hardcore. like nothing that you've done up until now would be as hardcore as what is about to happen now at Twitter. And so there are like all these very extreme, but I don't know, but I can't read Elon's mind, but obviously if you create a work environment which is either laid back, you will just get people not doing their best. And if you push the other way completely and you get people under so much stress that they're scared to like talk back or criticize any decisions, that they might get laid off and so on, you also find that people are not very productive and the overall team environment is a little bit toxic. And so really there's like a really nice space in between, and I really hope, I mean I haven't been at Twitter for almost a year now, so like I really hope Twitter is finding that really nice balance in the middle.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing as much as you can. Thank you very much for for all your insightful answers. Thank you everyone for asking questions. Please give them a round of applause.